Let's get some wine in our glasses, I think. If we can have, please, the Chardonnay first. So this is the Bluegum Grove Chardonnay from Danie Carinus' farm in the Polkadraai.
Yeah. So the lower slopes of Polkadraai.
The most beautiful man in the Polkadraai.
Yeah, and Stellenbosch probably.
A deeper soil profile
deeper
here.
sandy soil.
And what sort of base soil underneath the topsoil? Is it more granite? Is it clay?
There is granite, but there's also a little bit of clay when you go like real deep down.
Okay.
There's not a lot of it running through the top at all. So it is quite very well drained soil, basically.
Yeah, okay.
Very sandy, very granitic. It's actually a really great site. Should probably put Shannon there, to be honest. But,
super aromatic, this Chardonnay. I mean, it's jumping out the glass. I mean, it's not what you'd expect from a Stellenbosch Chardonnay necessarily. If I ordered a Stellenbosch Chardonnay off a wine list, this is not the wine I would necessarily immediately expect. So why is this so different to quote unquote normal Stellenbosch Chardonnays? What do you do to it?
I just think what have you done to it,
man?
What don't you do to it?
Just make real Chardonnay, you idiots. I don't know. I mean, we
do pick it quite early.
We pick it. I mean, it's 11.8% alcohol or something.
Okay.
It's much leaner in that sense. And there's not a lot of Chardonnay in the Polkadraai, so there's not a lot of reference point, I think. And I think the Polkadraai is quite a unique region for white wine in that sense. It's got this, we keep saying this word salinity and sort of tension and brininess, which I don't think you get necessarily in a lot of the other areas of Stellenbosch. It's mainly that that granitic belt that goes from the Polkadraai down towards Somerset West through Fore and Fir Grove, really.
And the Polkadraai essentially it's a slightly higher elevation than a lot of other Stellenbosch areas as well.
Yeah, it's one of the highest spots.
And does it get if Robertson gets coastal breezes, I'm assuming that Polkadraai gets coastal breezes as well.
Yeah.
Would you classify it as one of a cooler spot in Stellenbosch? Or?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's what, 10 kilometres from the ocean, and it's basically face southeast.
Yeah. Okay.
So you've got this whole wind tunnel coming from False Bay, that southeast that comes through all season.
Okay.
So there's nothing really to block it. It comes straight over Fora, and then just funnels straight towards it.
Goes past here.
Yeah, it gets bloody windy there.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is a good thing.
And does that obviously help with disease pressure, I'm assuming, as well?
It does and it doesn't. It's a very wet wind.
Oh, okay, right.
So it is quite particularly in the Chardonnay, because the Chardonnay sits in like a little trough at the bottom of the Polkadraai, whereas the Caribbean, which we have next, is sort of up on the slope and is a bit more sort of out of this. A lot of that, especially in the morning, the dense sort of fog can sit right down where the Chardonnay is. So you do get a bit of pressure there. But
you said you're picking early. What are you doing when the fruit comes into the winery? What's your
just
plan here?
pressing it.
Whole bunch press?
Yeah.
Yeah. Into
a tank.
Yeah. Big
round steel thing. And then into old barrels. So it's all fermented in 500 litre old neutral French barrels.
What are you just settling, just taking the dirt off essentially?
Yeah, so I mean,
the major solids.
It's very, it's not clean juice by any stretch. It's very sort of dirty and cloudy.
And then are you fermenting in the oak the whole time? Are you doing a bit of batonnage? What are you doing? Just letting it sit? Okay. Yeah. And when are you taking it off? When are you racking it off?
Generally like 3 months after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, we'll be racking the 23 next week or so.
Okay. And then is it rack and return? Or?
Yeah, straight back.
Okay.
The one downfall of Chardonnay, the Polkadraai is, I think it's because the soils they're quite weak in terms of nutrient base. They can get quite reductive. So it's one of those things that we do batonnage sometimes during ferment just to basically try and get rid of reduction. Yeah, so it's trying to avoid that character. We don't get that lovely sort of flinty Burgundian.
Yeah, but you get a bit. There's a definite bit of oyster shells.
There is,
chalky,
but it can it's this reduction that can quickly. I mean, it's fine now, obviously, but it can quickly go to that not so nice reduction.
Yeah, but cabbagey.
Stinky. Yeah.
I just love I love the aromatics of this one. It just leaps out the glass. It's got this beautiful sort of yellow flower, as I said, oyster shell, lemon peel character. But on the palate, there is a real sort of intensity there. I'm expecting something a lot lighter in fruit weight than what actually delivers.
Yep.
It reminds me a little bit almost like a really serious muscadet in a sense.
Yeah.
That it has that sort of power and saltiness without all of the alcohol and weight.
Sure.
In terms of Chardonnay, though, I mean, I know you guys drink a lot of Chablis. Is that sort of your more preference? I'm not saying
For sure.
I'm not saying it's Chablis by any
Yeah.
stretch, but that's your
It's not
sort of
like
stylistic choice is more Chablis rather than
100%.
say
Yeah.
something like Montrachet or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you can tell it in this wine as well.
Yeah.
Does it go through mellow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. We also, being in Stellenbosch, we have to be very careful with how sort of ripe we pick it. I mean, we don't have acid forever. If you leave this for another week, you might get another, half degree alcohol, but you'll probably have 3 grams less of acid.
Yeah.
So
It's not worth it.
that's the one thing we have to be conscious of in where we are in Stellenbosch. Acidity, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And oak, I'm assuming, is pretty old, neutral oak. Have you thought about newer oak, or not really?
No.
Just want to keep it as is. Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll get to the others later, but I know you're moving more towards concrete in general in your winery. Is
Yep.
the Chardonnay a candidate to go into concrete more and more?
funny,
or
like-
are you happy with the rate of oxidation, essentially?
I think it works well in
It works
in
well
barrels.
in these barrels, we
Okay.
find.
Yeah.
Like the Chenin, which we taste next, is 100% concrete now. But there's something, I don't know, we taste the Chardonnay every year and we're like, should we put this in concrete? But then it just doesn't feel right. I don't know.
It seems tight and sort of compact already. I mean, with concrete, it seems like maybe that'd be too much,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
you let it express
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got lovely yellow. I mean, obviously, Polkadraai, white Polkadraai, usually Chenin has this sort of lovely yellow fruit profile, like pear
Yeah.
skin, which is coming out as it warms up in the glass as well. So real generosity to the wine, without being heavy or fat or over,
Yeah.
a bit like David after eating some dumplings.
Dumplings Clarke.
Yeah, I think at this
Yeah.
point it's not destined for concrete.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
If it was, it'd be at the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
Back of the queue.
And in terms of logistics in the winery, you're bottling everything before the new vintage comes in, so everything's
Yeah.
sort of 9, 10,
Yeah.
11 months
Yeah.
before bottling. Okay, cool. And these were bottled what, November?
Capture purity.
2
December?
whites in November.
Okay.
The 2 middle wines, the green and the cinsault, generally sort of end of August, early September. And then the 2 reds, December, January. So we do 3 bottlings a year.
Okay.
Keep
So
us
more or less
sane.
6 months in bottle at the moment,
Yeah.
more or less.
Yeah.
Really
It's a
lovely
good spot.
Yeah. And I mean, this feels a lot more open than the 21s were at this point. Is that a
For sure.
Is that a 22 thing, you think, or
I think so.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's delicious.
Yeah.
Lovely.